Hey friends, this is Dolany TV. Glad to have you aboard this evening as we get set up to discuss the latest in Edmonton Oilers territory. And let me tell you, from the outside looking in, things are a mess with the Edmonton Oilers and Jeff Skinner on what has been a wild weekend down in LA and obviously Orange County as well, where for Jeff Skinner, he is working his way out of Edmonton and soon. Friends, if you're shocked that a Jeff Skinner trade may indeed happen here over the next 2 weeks, I don't know what to tell you. Things have not worked out for the Edmonton Oilers, and Jeff Skinner and Chris Knobloch knew it right from pretty much game one of this NHL season. Obviously, things for a lot of the Oilers haven't worked out much this season, but we'll get to that in a matter of moments. If you are new to the channel right now, friends, I want to appeal to you. You don't have to do it this instant. Take the rest of the video, consider things, and check out the channel before you hit that subscribe button. It's free to do, but I want you to think about it as we're closing in on 17,500 subscribers here this evening, and we got the big ol', guess what, New Year's Eve bash, Canada versus USA World Juniors play-by-play coming up here tomorrow. So let's get to Jeff Skinner. That's World Juniors stuff. Let's not worry about that for right now. Let's take a break for a day, shall we? Jeff Skinner, he signed at $3 million for 1 year here in Edmonton. The whole idea was sign with the Oilers, win a Stanley Cup, move on. He's never been to the playoffs, never a guy that's had success at the playoff level because of not being there. A guy who maybe on the back end of his career here, and a guy who, you know what, took a gamble on the Oilers simply because the Oilers wanted him and he wanted to play some playoff hockey. Well, he's got a little bit of trade protection because of that as well. Although now, as it appears for the Utah game on New Year's Eve, guess what? We don't only have a New Year's Eve bash going on between Canada and the US at the World Juniors. Canada is also playing home to a hockey game in Edmonton, Alberta tomorrow night at Rogers Place, Edmonton versus the Utah Hockey Club, to close out 2024, what has been an incredible year here in Edmonton and surrounding communities, celebrating the Oilers being back in the Stanley Cup final for the first time since '06. Well, you know what? Jeff Skinner finds himself by this same Edmonton Oilers team scratched, likely for tomorrow night's game. So what we also know about that is prior to that, Jeff Skinner had been pretty much stapled to a steady diet of fourth line play. Now this is where I get back to the Edmonton Oilers wanted Jeff Skinner, and he wanted to play some playoff hockey. Well, for the Oilers, normally when it comes to free agency, you address the team needs. Now I think the Oilers, being the Oilers and making some of the moves that they do, and we'll talk about this in the morning, trust me on that. The Oilers went for want versus need when they went to the team approach looking at Jeff Skinner. At least that's my view of it. If I'm wrong, that's fine. It's my opinion, and opinions are like you know what, and it's fine and dandy. But for the Oilers, a want versus need is showing quite steadily here. Yes, there are some other teams that at $3 million would not mind having Jeff Skinner, and that is where we look at a trade being possible. But the biggest thing here for the Oilers and Jeff Skinner is that bottom point is, at this point, the play style is just incompatible with what the Edmonton Oilers are trying to achieve night in, night out. Now, Jeff Skinner obviously is not the guy you blame for the past two games where the Oilers have been terribly playing hockey with zero compete, zero effort, zero pulse out there on the ice for most of the 60 minutes in both games in Southern California. So what we look at that is the Oilers obviously have some team needs, right? It's Jeff Skinner's a want. The Oilers have needs. And what is also showing itself apparent is Adam Henrique, as we mentioned, following the game on LA and kind of followed up by the game in Anaheim, taking on water as the Edmonton Oilers' third line center. He was floating out there doing all right at times over the past bit, but now all of a sudden the need for an upgrade in the bottom six, which has been the talk of oil country today, so it seems, and the need on defense is starting to show itself again here. And the Oilers, remind me, are 21-12-3 this year, so it's not like we're the worst team in the NHL, but the Oilers' team needs are very, very clear, right? It's not like we know this team is a Picasso and they're going to win the Stanley Cup in this current form, because even last year's team was not a Picasso and going to win the Stanley Cup in its current form, right? Evander Kane was no use to the Oilers at this point last year, and there's a reason he's still on the shelf now, and we'll get to that in a matter of moments. But you look at the Edmonton Oilers team need, and this is very prevalent. The Oilers have Matthias Ekholm, in the top four, who is your big-time, bona fide defensive-style defenseman. Now, Matthias Ekholm is an absolute unicorn out there for the Oilers. He's physical, he's hard defending, he can play all situations, and he chips point production time to time for the Oilers. A guy who steadily can get to that 40-point mark on the blue line. The Oilers have the second highest scoring blue line in the NHL, at least in going into that LA game, so we like that. But what the Oilers desperately need in the top four, and this is where, again, I think we've figured out the formula. Now that we have Evan Bouchard, compared to in years past when we had Adam Larsson, Tyson, we just should have kept Adam Larsson and we'd all be good. No, now that we have Evan Bouchard on the top pair alongside Matthias Ekholm, this is where a top 4 D-man who is a hard-nosed, physical, strong defending, big presence on the back end is exactly what you need alongside Darnell Nurse. Doesn't matter left hand, right hand shot. I don't care, because you see how well Brett Kulak's been doing next to Darnell Nurse. Top 4 D-man to play alongside Darnell Nurse. And I'll tell you this right here. I want you to see my face, because I'm serious about this. The biggest thing for Darnell Nurse is he is most effective. And again, he's making 9.25, so you got to have some expectations on both sides of the puck here. Darnell Nurse is most effective when he's allowed to get up ice and be a part of some rushes, be a part of the play, and contribute his skills offensively just as equally to his defense. Darnell Nurse, obviously, again, friends, he got this big contract in the absence of Oscar Klefbom, in the ability to score points. It was one factor in that number, right? You look at all the other defensemen that signed around that time, they were all scoring similar point numbers to Darnell Nurse, and that is a big reason why Darnell Nurse is an asset to the Oilers, is he has that offensive upside. And obviously sometimes, we don't like it, same with Bouchard, but when you're playing offense as a defenseman, you get caught and you have to hurry back, but you need a reliable partner like we have in a Matthias Ekholm to sometimes clean up those bad decisions. That's fine. We can live with it, because if you have the best of both worlds on the same defensive pair, the benefits will far outweigh the risks every time. There's a reason the Oilers got to the Stanley Cup final with Evan Bouchard and Darnell Nurse doing what they do in the Oilers lineup last spring-summer. So we know a big defending presence on the blue line in the top 4 is absolutely a must. That has been a huge checkmark box for the Oilers all season long. What we did not know, yes, we knew we likely needed somebody like a Noah Philp to rise up from the minors and become a big part of the Oilers' bottom 6 in the back half of the year. What we did not know is just how badly here by December, January, that Adam Henrique would be faring for the Oilers. And I mean, unfair right now, right? Adam Henrique has not played his way off this team, but Adam Henrique has played his way into looking like a fourth-line centerman for the Oilers come playoff time. So again, this is where I mentioned a name like Nick Bjugstad, who you will get to see play on Tuesday night for the Oilers in the New Year's Eve game playing for Utah. A big bottom 6 center or centers, right? I'm game to replace Adam Henrique if we have to. We're already talking about replacing Jeff Skinner. A bottom 6 center with size, grit, and skill. Again, Nick Bjugstad's 6'6". He's got a rangy body that even if he doesn't mean to play gritty, it's going to hurt you sometimes. And he's got skill upside that can contribute a goal or a couple of points per playoff series that would desperately be needed. Now, when you look at the Oilers' bottom 6, there's a line there at the bottom talking about Evander Kane. The Oilers' bottom 6 is pretty well solidified with a lot of proven performers who really are able to get the job done for you at any level of hockey. Corey Perry's been there, done that a million times over, and he's forgotten more about hockey than I've learned in 28 years covering it. So when you look at this here for the Edmonton Oilers, is really you have to look at it from a standpoint of who's going to serve you best night in, night out doing this here. So for the Oilers, again, Evander Kane is going to allow you to mix up your bottom six, right? That's the biggest thing. Evander Kane's body back in the lineup moves down. I want to say, I'm not sitting here saying Evander Kane's going to play bottom 6 minutes the whole year, because I don't think he will. If Kane's fully healthy, he's a top six forward for this Edmonton Oilers team. He's got the boots. He's been slowed because of injury over the past 2 years, but he can move it in the top six as well as anybody else's top six out there in the NHL, given the play style of Leon Draisaitl and given the ability of a Victor Arvidsson. So you look at a top six that features Nuge, McDavid, Hyman, Kane, Draisaitl, Arvidsson come playoff time. I don't want to mess with that. That sounds deadly. Now you also move into a situation where for the Oilers, that moves down Podkolzin, that allows you to roll a line that features Janmark, Henrique, and Brown. And like I said, if they play their way back up to being the solid third line that they were in the playoffs, great, granted, awesome. Now you have two third lines that are capable of taking on minutes depending on the game for the Oilers, where now you have Podkolzin, you have Perry, and you have this new mystery guy that could be Nick Bjugstad in your bottom six, right? That's at least bare minimum. And that goes to say Kasperi Kapanen doesn't take out Corey Perry's spot, which I think absolutely night and day once playoff comes. Given the way Kasperi Kapanen's been playing, so long as he holds his spot in the lineup the rest of the year, he should absolutely hold down that third, fourth line role center on the right wing. So I think Kasperi Kapanen alongside Podkolzin and a guy like Nick Bjugstad just sounds like absolute found money for the Edmonton Oilers at the playoff level. So you kind of start getting where this goes, right? Is for Derek Ryan, for Corey Perry, they are, once again, kind of like for Corey Perry and Derek Ryan last year in the playoffs, your extra men in case of injury. And they are not bad guys to call on. They're proven veterans, capable of leading the younger guys through tougher moments, being there a couple times over now. And I think 100% the Oilers should want that and need that. So I think it's one of those things now where you don't have a lot of chess pieces to move. And because you don't have a lot of assets to move those chess pieces, you really are limited to what you can do. And obviously the cap space has been nice, but it's not necessarily going to be mega millions of bucks here. So don't worry about it. But for the Oilers, there is a ton of little niche things we can do, right? You look at this list the Oilers team needs and how that dynamically changes the lineup come, trade deadline time, come the 1st of April. And you want to tell me right now the Oilers team is worse than last year's team? That's fine. The Oilers actually, I think, have a better record at this point than they did last year. And I mean, you're getting better performances out of some guys than maybe you were at this point last year with Morton Fogel and Ryan McLeod, who everybody wanted traded, but we'll save that discussion for the morning. You look at it, though, is there is a ton of upside in a lineup that if they check all three of these boxes, that lineup is the Stanley Cup winner for the Edmonton Oilers. And if it's not, then we don't have anything that will ever come close to winning a Stanley Cup in the McDavid-Draisaitl era. So, friends, take on that, chew on it here tonight, and enjoy things this evening for you. Party safe tomorrow. If you don't catch me tomorrow in the morning edition, party safe. For my friends up in Cold Lake, Operation Red Nose is there for you. Use it. Good folks there taking care of you and your vehicle on a night where get sloppy, get messy, and enjoy it. So, but get home safe and get your vehicle home at the same time so as you're ready to go the next day. You know what I mean? All right, no more messages. Let's get home. Let's get safe. Let's get party on, and let's get up on out of here.